Hi everyone, hope you all are good. We are here for grade 5 math. So you can find all the lessons on aplusstudents.com. You have to log in there using your email address and password is provided by the administrator. Then you have to select math from the subject tab. Scroll down to grade 5 and then click on view all lessons. So there you can find a list of the chapters. We're going to start with the chapter ratios, proportions and percents. The lessons we're going to cover today are percent of a number, determine the ratio, compare percentages, convert between percent, fractions, and decimals, right? So please make sure you have your notebook and pencil so that you can note down the important examples and definitions as well. So let's just start with the very first lesson, that is percent of a number. So what do you know about the percent of a number? How do you calculate percent of a number? Okay, so what is percent of a number? So, percentage is a number or ratio that can be expressed as a fraction of 100, right? You can note down the definition of the percentage. A percentage is a number or ratio that can be expressed as a fraction of 100, right? So, if we have to calculate the percent of a number, we divide the number by the whole and multiply by the 100, right? The word percent means 100, right? So whenever you have to calculate the percentage of a number, you divide the number by the whole and multiply by the 100. That's you have to do when you are going to calculate the percent of a number, right? So let's just start with an example. For example, you have to calculate the percentage. For example, you have to calculate 30% of what is 60. 30% of what is 60, right? Like you are given the 30% of some number is 60. You need to calculate the number, right? So how do you calculate 30% of what is 60? 60 is the part, right? Of whole. You don't know what is whole. You need to calculate the whole, right? So how do you calculate? That is the part. 60 is the part of whole. You don't know whole. 60 is the part of what you don't know, and 60 is 30% of a whole. You need to form a proportion, right? How do you form a proportion? It would be part divided by whole, and that equals n divided by 100, right? So the part is 60 divided by whole, and n is 30 over 100, right? So you have to do 30 times whole and 60 times 100. That would be 60,000. 6,000 divided by 30. So that means whole is 200. That means whole is 200 and 60 is the part of the whole, right? So that's how you calculate the percent whenever you have to calculate the percent, right? You need to form a proportion between the part and the whole and the percentage. Let's just start with an example from the A plus. Let's just start with the lesson that is percent of a number. Let's start with this example. What is 50% of 18, right? You need to calculate 50% of 18. Let me just explain the question. What is 50% of 18, right? This is the whole you are given. You have to calculate the part. The whole is 18. You need to calculate the part. How many, what part? 50%, right? N is 50%, right? Just form a proportion. The proportion would be part over whole equals N over 100. You have to calculate the part. Whole is 18. The total is 18, right? And what part? 50%. So just 250 p equals, you have to multiply 18 other sides. So it would be 50 times 18 divided by 100, right? So 18 times 50 is 900 and 900 divided by 100 is 9. That means the 50% of 18 is 9. 50% means half of 18, right? And we know that the half of 18 is 9, right? So the important thing is this one and the understanding of the question. What is part and what is whole, right? If you understand the question carefully, you know the proportion, you just need to put the values in the proportion and you have to calculate the missing value, right? Okay, let's just start with the practice questions. What is 75% of 32? Let's just see what is 75% of 32. Okay, what is 75% of 32, right? So 32 is the whole. You have to calculate the part of 32. Okay, and you are given the percentage. So it would be part divided by whole and divided by 100. Whole is 32. You have to calculate the part of 32. How much part? 75% part, right? So you just put the value part. You have to calculate part. Whole is 32 and 75 over 100. You just have to multiply 32 other side. So that would be P equals 75 times 32 and divided by 100, right? Yeah, hi. So that would be 75 times 32 over 100 is, hold on, 75 times 32 is 2400 and 2400 over 100 is 24. That means 75% of 32 is 24, right? The correct option is 24. Got it? If you have any question, you can write down the question in the chat box. So 75% of 32 is 24. The correct option is 24, right? Okay, what is 25% of 12? So you have to calculate 25% of 12. right? That means 12 is whole. You have to calculate the part of whole. How much part? 25%, right? So we know that the proportion is part divided by whole and n divided by 100, right? Part is, you don't know how much part, you have to calculate the part of what? Part of 12. How much part? 25%. I think 75 it is. Or 25 it is. Okay, 25 over 100. So just multiply 12 other sides. So it would be 75 times 12 over. From where I 25 it is, not 75, right? Okay. 25 times 12 is 300 and 300 divided by 100 is 3. So that means 25% of 12 is 3, right? So 25% of 12 is 3. That means 25% of 12 is 3, right? The correct option is 3. Okay, the next one is, what is 60% of 15? You have to calculate 60% of 15, right? How do you calculate 60% of 15, right? That means the whole is 15. You have to calculate the part of 15. How much part? 60% part, right? The basic thing here is, when you are calculating the percent of a number, the basic thing is you need to understand the question carefully, right? For this question, 25 is the whole, right? And you have to calculate the part of 15. So whole is 15. You have to calculate the part of 15. How much part? N equals 60%. 60% you have to calculate, right? So let's just form a proportion. The proportion is part divided by whole, and that equals n over 100, right? So part is, you don't have, you have to calculate the part of what? 15. And how much part? 60%. So it would be P equals 60 times 15 and divided by 100. So 65 times 16 times 5 is 9. 15 times 6 is 90. That is 900 divided by 100. That equals 9. That means 60% of 15 is 9, right? So 60% of 15 is 9. The correct option is 9. You can start the lesson from, start listening to the lesson from the start, then you will get it. The next one is, what is 70% of 30? You have to calculate 70% of 30, right? So the 30 is whole, right? You have to calculate the part of 30. How much part? 70% part, right? So whole is 30. You have to calculate the part of 30, and how much part? 70% part, right? So you need to form a proportion, that would be part over whole equals n over 100. So part is, you need to calculate part, whole is 30 and 70 over 100. Just multiply 30 other side, so it would be 70 times 30 over 100. So 70 times 30 is 2100 over 100. That equals 21. That means 70% of 30 is 21, right? 70% of 30 is 21. Got it? For if you still need help, go start with the lesson. like I don't have much time to explain. Just go to the lesson from the start and go through the examples I did earlier, right? Okay, you can complete the lesson by yourself later today. Let's just start with the next lesson. The next lesson is determine a ratio. So, what is ratio? What do you know about ratios? You can note down the definition of the ratio. What is ratio? A ratio means a ratio compares values, right? So a ratio says how much of one thing there is compared to another thing, right? A ratio says how much of one thing there is compared to another thing. So basically, the ratio means you are going to compare two quantities, right? You can say, you can write them as 3:1. If you still don't get it, you guys can please start listening to the lesson from the start. Just go through the lesson again, right? Because you guys joined me late. That's why you still don't get it. So start listening the lesson from the very start, from where I started today. Okay, so we're going to start with determine the ratios. How do we find ratios, right? So ratio is basically the comparison between two values. What is the ratio of orange pens to total pens? You can see orange to total. So you have total 4 pens, right? How many of them are orange? FOMA, if you focus on the lesson we are discussing, then you will get it. Do not, please do not join me for the chit chat. You're here for chit chat always. That's why you don't get it, what I am explaining. So the total pens are 4, and 3 of them are orange. So that means the ratio is 3 to 4. That means you have total 4 pens and 3 of them are orange. So the ratio would be 3 to 4, right? Let's just start with the practice questions. You guys just here to waste the time actually. What is the ratio of yellow hearts to brown hearts? So which is the correct option? Yellow hearts to brown hearts, right? So how many yellow? One, two, three, four, five, six, seven. 7 are yellow and just one is brown. So it would be 7 to 1, right? 7 to 1. Because you have 7 yellow hearts and 1 brown. So that would be 7 to 1. Very good. Okay, what is the ratio of red fish to total fish? So which is the correct option? You have three red fish and the total are five. So the ratio would be 3 to 5, right? Just read the question. Red fish, two total. So you have three red fish and the total is 5. So it would be 3 to 5. The correct option is 3 to 5, right? What is the ratio of purple jeep to red jeeps? So which is the correct option? So you have only one purple jeep and the red jeeps are 4. So it would be 1 to 4. The ratio would be 1 to 4, right? Very good. That is 1 to 4. What is the ratio of the pink hexagons to blue hexagons? So which is the correct option? Yes, the pink hexagons are 6. Blue is only 1. So it would be 6 to 1, right? The correct option is 6 to 1. What is the ratio of the orange octagonal prisms to total octagonal prisms? So which is the correct option? Orange is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of them are orange. And the total is 10. So it would be 9 to 10, right? The correct option is 9 to 10. The correct option is 9 to 10. So you can complete the lesson by yourself later today. Let's just move on to next lesson, right? 9 to 10 it is. Okay, the next lesson is compare percentages, right? So how do we compare percentages? What do you know about the comparing percentages? Okay, let's just see how do we compare percentages. Okay. Okay, compare percentages, right? Okay. So, okay, which is less? 100% of 19 and 25% of 68, right? So how do you compare? Just calculate the values of both of them, right? The one that has more value is greater, and the one who has the less value is the smaller one. 100% of 19 and 100% of 19 and 25% of 68. Let's just calculate both the percentages, right? 100% of 19, that would be 100 over 100 times 19, right? So that would be 19. 25% of 68, that is 25 over 100 times 68, right? That's how you calculate the percentages, right? Just divide 25% to 25 over 100 times 68, that is 17. So which is less? Here is 19 and here is 17, so obviously 17 is less, right? So that means 25% of 68 is less than 100% of 19. Got it? So you, whenever you have to compare the percentages, just simply calculate the values of both the percentages given, right? The one who has the greater value is the greater one, and the one who has the less value is the less. Let's just start with the practice questions. Okay, 40% of 50 and 20% of 50. Which is less? Okay, let's just calculate. 40% of 50 and 20% of 50. Let's just calculate 40%. 40 over 100 times 50, right? Then 20 over 100 times 50. So 40 over 100 is, that is 20, right? And then 20 over 100 times 50 is 10. So which is less? The question is, you need to see which fraction is less. 40% of 50 is 10. How? 40% of 50 is how 10? How 40% of 50 is 10? You have to calculate percentages like this. How you calculated the answer 10? 40% of 50 is 20. 20% of 50 is 10. So the less is obviously this one. 20% of 50 is less than 40% of 50. Use your notebook and pencil and calculate the values, right? Just do not guess the answers. So the question is, which is less? 25%. 20% of 50 is less, right? Okay, which is less? 30% of 40 and 30% of 70. 30% of 40 and 30% of 70. Let's just calculate both the percentages, right? It will be 30 over 100 times 40 and 30 over 100 times 70. 4 times 3 is 12, and that would be 21. So which is less? The one that has a smaller value, right? So 12 is smaller. That means 30% of 40 is less than 30% of 70, right? 30% of 40 is less than 30% of 70. Okay, which is greater? 10% of 10 or 90% of 10? Okay, let's just calculate 10% of 10 and 90% of 10. 10% of 10 and 90% of 10, right? 10% means you have to do 10 over 100 times 10, right? When you do calculations, it would be 1. Then 90 over 100 times 10. When you do calculations, that would be 9. So which is more? 90% of 10 is more than 10% of 10. So 90% of 10 is greater than 10% of 10, right? Okay, which is greater, 90% of 60 and 90% of 80? Okay, 90% of 80 and 90% of 60. Let's just calculate. 90% means that is 90 over 100 times 80. Then you have 90 over 100 times 60, right? When you do calculations, it would be 72. And that would be 54. So which is greater? Obviously 72 is greater, right? So that would be 90% of 80 is greater than 90% of 60, because 90% of 80 is 72 and 90% of 60 is 54. So 90% of 80 is greater than 90% of 60, right? Okay, which is greater, 30% of 10 or 10% of 30? Which is greater? Just two calculations and let me know the answer, right? Which one is greater? I think they both are equal. Just calculate and let me know the answer. Okay, let me just do 30% of 10 and 30 over 100 times 10 and 10 over 100 times 30. That is 300 over 100. 300, they both are exactly equal. Because 30 times 10 is 300 over 100 and 10 times 30 is 300 over 100. So they both are exactly equal. I've already told you they both are exactly equal, right? Which is less, 30% of 50 or 90% of 50? You have to calculate the value for same, right? The percentages is for same for 50. Just look at the percentage, 30% and 90%. Obviously 30% is less, right? So the correct option is 30% of 50 is less than 90% of 50, because you have to calculate the percent of the same number. 30 is less than 90, right? So that means 30% of 50 is less than 90% of 50. Very good. 30% of 50 is less than 90% of 50. Which is greater? 80% of 10 or 40% of 30? Which is greater? Which is greater? You have to calculate 80% of 10 and 40% of 30. 10 is smaller than 30, right? And for the smaller number, you have to calculate the greater percent. 80% is greater than 40%, right? So the greater one is 40% of 30, because 30 is greater than 10. So the greater one is, you are just guessing the answers. I don't know what's your name and I can't read your name, right? The greater one is 40% of 30. Use your notebook and pencil and do calculations, right? So 40% of 30 is greater than 10% of 80% of 10. Okay, which is greater, 100% of 90 or 30% of 90? Obviously 100% of 90 is greater, right? Because they both have same, you have to calculate the percentage for both same numbers, 90 and 90, but 100% is more than 30%. So that means 100% of 90 is greater than 30% of 90, right? Okay, which is less, 90% of 70 and 90% of 20? So which is less? You have to see which is less, right? That is 90% of 20, because you have to calculate the same percentage with for different value. 70 is greater than 20. So then 90% of 20 is less than 90% of 70. Okay, which is greater, 70% of 30 or 100% of 24? The greater would be the 100% of 24, right? So the correct one is 100% of 24, right? Okay, you can complete the lesson by yourself later today. So we were working on grade 5 math, And the chapter we're working on is ratios, proportions, and percents. The lessons we have covered are percent of a number, determine the ratio, then percent of a number, word problems. You have to do word problems on your own and then compare percentages. We'll do convert between percents, fractions, and decimals in the next session, right? That would be a bit lengthy, so we'll cover this in the next session. So you have to complete all the practice questions for the lessons we did today. That's your homework until next session, right? So if you need more help with any of the lesson, you can contact any tutor on the Skype. They are available from Monday to Friday, 5 to 9. Or either you can join me in the interactive session that will be daily from 4 to 5 and from 9 to 10, right? So that's all for today. If you have any question, you can please ask. I'm here to answer all your questions and confusions if you have any. No questions? Okay, then that's all for today. See you in the next session.